All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. I'm going to go ahead and take the roll. Melissa Bobin,
Here.
Kathy O'Neill,
Here.
Alex Porter,
Here.
Lindsay Spencer,
Here.
Brandon Wegge,
Here.
Tika Shaw. I believe she.
Tika was actually on, oh, there she is. She's coming in through Zoom.
Hi, Tika, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yay.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
We can hear you.
All right, we just did the roll, so you just are officially in attendance.
Sorry about that.
All right, any comments on today's agenda?
I have one. I just want to make sure we add item 3B. So we have Matt Farwig from Ameren's Mo Biz Savers program to give us an overview of that program. So I want to make sure we have that on the agenda.
Right. Thank you, Brandon. The only other thing I had was on the roll call item 1B, it's got a note about Brandon being absent, and that was from last meeting, so we can make that adjustment to the meeting minutes. Anything else? All right, and we've got first a presentation from Marco Tipton with Ameren. Brandon, you want to give him an introduction?
Marco on, even? We can do Matt first if we need to. But so we have Marco Tipton, who's the community development executive for Ameren. So he works, initiatives and partnerships with communities about how energy savings. We work closely with him on getting the EV chargers over at the rec center. And so, and then we also have Matt Farwig, who is part of Ameren's Mo Biz Savers program. So I wanted to get an overview of these two things that are going on. And really, one of the reasons we wanted to form SUSCOM was to, have kind of a catcher's mitt for all of these initiatives that are coming in. There were things that were going by. They were just kind of like being thrown at the Board of Aldermen, not really subject matter experts, don't really understand it. And so there were things that were being dropped off. And so I'm hopeful that the Sustainability Commission can kind of handle these and make recommendations up to the board so that we can start handling them. So I really see this as one of the key roles of SUSCOM to understand these things and improve on. So I don't know if we have Marco on yet. If not, we can start with Matt, I would recommend.
Marco was on.
Hello, everyone. I am here, but feel free to go with Matt. I am fine with either way. And I guess I assumed that we were all virtual, or I would have joined the party in person.
No worries. I think, Marco, since we've got you right now, before we lose you, you can feel free to go ahead and start, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And joining me, I have Sarah Martin with Electrify Missouri. I think she's on virtually as well. And so not sure if, can you guys see a presentation? Can I share my screen? Or I know I emailed it to Eric and Alderman Wegge. Should I share that or should I just talk on it? Not sure if you'll be able to see it if I do share my screen. How does that work?
The presentation was added into Board Docs. So if you click on that item on the agenda, you can pull up the presentation.
Okay. Is that for me or? Because I think I can share my screen. So anyway, how about I just go forward? If you guys want to, once again, I sent that to Eric and Alderman Wegge. You guys can always take a look at the PowerPoint. Just really a few quick slides to talk about two things that we're talking to a lot of municipalities about. One deals with what we call EV readiness, electric vehicle ordinance, that basically prepares communities with the infrastructure of electrification, right? So convenient access to EV charging is one of the most critical factors in people's decision to purchase electric vehicles. And one of the things we're doing is working with municipalities throughout St. Louis County, as well as the city of St. Louis. Although the city of St. Louis has passed an ordinance, we look at the city of Brentwood as a leader in sustainability. And kudos for the whole sustainability committee that, from my understanding, residents are a part of this, which is great. And one of the things we talk about is the auto industry is investing billions in electrification, right? So GM committed $27 billion into EVs through 2025. GM will launch more than 30 different type of EVs by 2035. Manufacturer has increased the maximum range when it comes to electric vehicles by 450 miles. That's kind of the max. 5 to 7 years ago, I think it was somewhere around 200, right? Even Ford, right? The F-150, one of the best selling vehicles in the country, will be electric by 2022. And then like the state of California, right? They have committed to saying by 2035, all vehicles made or sold in the state of California would be zero gas emissions. So these are, so these are things that the auto industry are doing when it comes to electric vehicles. Also, there's an environmental benefit when it comes to electric vehicles. Right now, 20% of St. Louis total greenhouse gas emissions are from road and transportation, right? So there is a environmental benefit from all of us. And then there's a financial one as well. AAA estimates that the average annual cost for owning a gas vehicle is over $8,000, right? You can save, the average driver will save $6,800 with electric vehicles. And, we just think it makes sense, not only Ameren, but Electrify Missouri as well, thinks it really makes sense to help government entities lead. Once again, the city of St. Louis has passed an EV ordinance. Richmond Heights was the first municipality in St. Louis County who passed an EV ordinance. And really what an EV ordinance does, it requires developers, whether it's commercial, you can do residential, multifamily, you can really make it, what's best for your municipality. But it requires developers to put the electrical capacity of an EV charging station from the very beginning. The charging station does not have to be installed, but the electrical capacity does. And what that does, it saves the community, the business owners, the residents cost, because it is cheaper to do it at the beginning at new construction than it is to retrofit. And we have templates to help the city of Brentwood to kind of craft this out that's best fit for you. Not to mention, as you know all too well, that we also have incentives, right? Currently, our incentives cover half of the capital costs, up to $5,000 per port. You have taken advantage of that. And one of the things we just really want to do is help electrify Missouri, right? And make sure that infrastructure is in place for when the time is right. So I kind of plan to kind of go through the PowerPoint, but in short, that's kind of the message when it comes to electrification. I think Sarah Martin is filling in for Earl Scissors. Sarah, if you're on, feel free to, throw out a couple of nuggets there as well.
Hi, yes. Thanks for having us this evening. I will just be honest with you. I was very unprepared as my partner had a family emergency. So I am filling in. But sorry, I'm cooking dinner and doing this. Can you hear me? Okay. I'll just be brutally honest. But no, I think Marco covered it well. Just from state, the state level on down, this is Missouri. Obviously has a lot of highways. Your community is in an amazing location to benefit from folks utilizing these stations, stopping and shopping or eating at restaurants, and or even if they're just there for a quick stop. Every business is starting to prepare for this, especially the petroleum businesses. They know where this is going. And will we get rid of internal combustion completely or entirely? We will not. But electrification is making its move, and we want St. Louis and the rest of the state to be a part of that. We don't want people to avoid our state or our municipalities because we aren't prepared and we aren't there. And I think this really is where St. Louis and beyond can excel. So I'm really excited that municipalities across the St. Louis region are working on this. It really, from what Marco's told me, you all are really ahead of the game, which is amazing. And I'm happy to offer any questions. Our website, electrifymissouri.org, it has a map of all the charging stations across the state, so you can see kind of where everyone stacks up. So I think this is definitely an area where municipalities can attract just not only travelers, but also can attract commercial developers as well. So thank you so much for having us tonight. Thank you, Marco.
Yep. Thanks, Sarah. And one thing I definitely want to, I think I mentioned it, but just want to make sure we are working with a lot of the municipalities in St. Louis County, including the county council. So, you know, this is coming down the pipeline with a lot of municipalities will be approving this here over the next, 30, 60, 90 days. We understand, particularly Ameren, understand the commitment that the city of Brentwood has when it comes to sustainability. I mean, I think this meeting shows it as well. So you guys are perfect, to Sarah's point, perfect location. And we've been actually having these kind of sustainability type meetings talking about electrification here over the last month or two. So any questions, any concerns? Once again, by the way, I am in local government affairs. So we do have electrification manager when it comes to our incentives. Eric, Alderman Weggie, they went through that process, but we can always connect you with other people internally who may be experts when it comes to some of the incentives we provide. Although I've been in these meetings for a while now, so I kind of know high level a lot of it. So feel free to ask any questions, any concerns, or your thoughts are more than welcome.
And I just want to add one other thing. I think it's great too that municipalities across the region are doing a variety of different types of incentives, whether they're financial or planning incentives to different businesses. I think it's really great to see the variety of what folks are doing.
Hey, Marco or Sarah, a couple questions. For a new build house, so if you're tearing down a house and you're building a brand new house, do you have a sense of like how much additional cost it would be to say be EV ready? I mean, if you're building a new electrical system, I assume it's not a lot, but do you guys have a ROM number of how much additional cost that would be for a new build house?
So we do have some documents that we can send over to maybe Eric or Brandon. They can pass it to the committee. But the reality is, when it comes to like residential homes, we're literally talking about a dryer outlet within your garage, right? That's really what the electrical capacity is to charge a level 2 charging station in someone's garage. Right now, that is not required, right? And you'd be surprised how many garages don't have that. And the price, right, is not much, right? Less than probably $800 to make sure that electrical capacity is there and that dryer outlet is within that garage. However, if you retrofitted that, we're talking about some money now there for that homeowner, which is why. And then you guys can do your research. I don't know how many new construction homes are built in Brentwood, but the reality is, however many it is, it's going to save that homeowner money. In fact, one of our colleagues who just had a house built doesn't have it, and him and his wife just bought an electric vehicle. They had to retrofit that, which cost them thousands of dollars, and it could have saved them if that was done at the new construction. We do have some documents after this. I'll send it over to Eric, to Alderman Weggie. They can pass it to the sustainability committee to take a look at it. But it's not much if it's done at construction than it is retrofitting the property.
Thanks, Marco. And then on the commercial, do you think that an EV ordinance is necessary for commercial properties to put these chargers in? It seems like they would have a compelling reason to do it just to attract customers and, maybe the onus is on them to do it and spend up front instead of waiting. Do you think it's a compelling need for the ordinance for commercial development?
I personally think so, because from a developer, new construction, everyone's probably trying to save a little bit of money, and of course they would if it's not there. But let's say you're building a target there, right? I think that ordinance would, if it requires, I'm just throwing some stuff out there, 2% of the parking lots, and let's say it equals 5 parking spots there. I think it's an opportunity for government to lead in that area instead of leaving it up to that particular developer, because that local target may be doing this anyway in the next, 3 to 5 years, right? It saves them thousands of dollars if it's done from the very beginning. The good thing about this, the city of Brentwood can structure it how they want. I would encourage commercial as well. The city of St. Louis did commercial, residential, and multifamily, and I think that's the trend. I would encourage commercial as well.
All right, thanks, Marco. That's all I had. Thanks.
Yes, thank you both for your presentations. And Marco, I just want to let you know while we aren't sharing the presentation, we do have your slides. We can all see them on our own screens. So if you wanted to go through them, if there's anything else you wanted to go through, feel free before we go into more questions.
Yeah, I think the high level overview. In fact, I did one of these Friday. Like, Marco, listen, you're preaching to the choir here. You don't have to go through all of this, and I sense it may be similar to there. If you have any questions, though, whether it's now or later, feel free to shoot me an email or ask a question. But the reality is, this is where our society in the future is going, towards electric vehicles, and why not have our region prepared when it comes to the infrastructure. The city of Brentwood is really unique in the sense of not where it's only located, but it's really progressive, and you guys have a sustainability committee. This is one area where you can have a good win. So
I have a question.
Go for it.
Marco, I represent an area of Brentwood which is multifamily. The buildings were built in the 50s, and there's common ground for parking and for green space. Trying to fit in any kind of electrical charging station is an issue because no one owns a particular piece of land. It's common ground. Do you have anything from other areas that have faced this problem and have been able to do some conversions?
that's a really good question. As of now, no, right? We've been working with businesses, government on things that they own. So no one owns that common ground. It's just who owns it?
Well,
Or is
it's
these-
condo association owns it.
Condo,
Everyone
okay.
owns it, so no one
Gotcha.
person can claim it for their own.
From their own. Yeah. So in that case, right, it would probably make sense for the I guess the condo association maybe to put one there and hope that it increases the tenants wanting to live there. But that's a really unique question. What I can do, though, is talk to our electrification manager, who's probably in those granular details and get those type of questions more often than I would, and get his perspective on that.
That would be helpful. We have 1,400 units, so even if you figure 10% of them eventually have electric vehicles, it's going to be a large number. Thanks.
Absolutely. Great question. And I will, once I touch base with our electrification manager that handles like incentives, I'll get that to Eric and Alderman Wegge for you. Great question.
Marco, this is Andy Burkhamper again. I'm curious. I haven't looked over the model ordinance, but is it sounds like it's probably focused mostly or entirely on level 2 charging, and along the same lines as Kathy's question, is this strictly kind of new residential developments? It sounds like it's probably mostly, certainly focused on single-family homes. But what about those new multifamily developments or commercial, retail, things like that? Does it typically cover all of those, or kind of focusing on one or the other?
That's a good question. So for instance, the city of St. Louis, they did all three. So they made an ordinance for residential single-family homes. So I have a contractor working on my 2 families knocking right now. But they did residential, multifamily, and commercial, right? So in that case, it impacts all 3 new construction. And that's what we would recommend for Brentwood, if that answers your question.
Yes, and then that's focused on level 2 charging, I'm assuming?
Yes, sorry about that. Yep. So level 2 is what we would recommend for like around town, at your local Target, at someone's home. You do have fast charging, which is more for like highways going up across 70 or 40.
So that was one of my follow-up questions, probably more for Sarah, is whether there's anything that the city could do potentially to attract or draw those level 3, charging stations to, Brentwood. Again, we've got a pretty good location near the interstates, but and we did just get a large Tesla superstation installed, which was good. But the other non-Tesla things, is there anything we could do to maybe try to draw those things here next to our businesses rather than next door to some of the neighboring communities? I believe you're on mute, Sarah. Sorry.
Sorry, you think I'd have this down by now. So I just want to make sure I understand the question. You're saying existing businesses, what would you do to incentivize? Or are you saying going forward, what would you do to incentivize the level 3?
Yeah, just I guess either. Just what could potentially, this, as a city, what they could do to try to attract those developments within our city.
I know some businesses are. Some municipalities are offering some breaks to the developer in the sense of what they require. So, say a business would normally require 20 parking spaces. If they're willing to put in a certain type of charger or certain chargers, then and space is tight or whatever, they work with the developer and that, they don't have to do the 20 parking spaces. They can get away with the 15. Incentives like that aren't really monetary. The city's not losing anything financially, but they are, working kind of in the appeals process or the zoning process on what they require to make it a little bit easier. And then, of course, some municipalities, this is far more common in the Sun Belt than here in the Midwest, are offering some type of monetary incentive. But we could look at different incentives and see, kind of depending on what you and your colleagues are interested in, what type of incentive, we could look at model programs that other cities are doing. That's a really good question. Again, not to beat a dead horse, but you all are just so well positioned geographically with your business community to have those types of chargers and prepare for the future, or be on top of it.
Yes, thank you. So that's kind of my thought. I was, for everyone's benefit, is we've got some really good retail developments here in Brentwood, and level 3 fast charging is basically pulling people that are traveling on the interstates, pulling them off the road for 20 or 30 minutes, and they're usually going to stop and spend some money somewhere. So it's just, I think it would be good to, and there's a lot of, Ameren's got their own plans, but as a state, there's a lot of commitments to add these charging stations all on the interstates. And so, again, trying to get them to be put here instead of in Clayton or Richmond Heights would be good for everyone, I think.
And there is,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So I don't know if you, forgive me if I'm repeating something that someone's already told you, but the Volkswagen settlement money from the lawsuits with Wagon and their faulty emissions, the money comes through the state and it is awarded, or the Department of Natural Resources manages this large amount of money, and it has a grant program to different municipalities. So say you wanted to put it at a municipal building, or if the city owns some sort of piece of land that you think would work well off the highway, then you say like a library, or say even if you, this is going off the subject a little bit, but if you wanted to purchase a fleet of vehicles, there is money for that through the state, and they are going to reissue their latest round of grant opportunities. They may have already done that, but I know that the October, I believe, will be the deadline. But there are some opportunities there.
Thank you for mentioning that. I am personally, I'm familiar with that program. I looked into it recently, and from what I saw, at least the only piece that I saw was funding that was set aside for strictly for the level 3 charging, and they had specific, spots around the state that they basically, exits or towns that they were looking to put these in, mostly in the rural areas where the infrastructure is less. But do you know, it sounds like you might be talking about additional money that's maybe more focused on level 2 infrastructure, or do you know?
I believe, yes, they were focusing on level 2. And there were, like, I know St. Louis City, for instance, they took advantage of it and purchased a fleet that through that grant opportunity. There will be future rounds as well. I don't believe this will be the last round. So you might just continue to look at that and just see what opportunities are available.
So I don't know if this is the appropriate time for discussion on this, but, we have a large redevelopment opportunity in Brentwood, and we're expecting a lot of new development. So I think time is of the essence for us to make a recommendation on this, because it's going to take time to work through it. Along those ends, there is an ongoing conversation about maybe moving some of the commercial permitting and inspection and those things back to St. Louis County right now. So that might be a little fly in the ointment on that. But I don't think that should dissuade us from still making a recommendation. So I don't know if this is the right time, but I think we should proceed with, EV ready space, so you have that dryer outlet, especially for residential. Marco, we have a lot of new development going on in this town right now and expect a lot more to come. And I think there should be a recommendation to explore the commercial and multifamily. I'm not aware of any new multifamily development coming anytime soon, so maybe that's a moot point, but that's something we should think about as well. So I would make that motion let's get Public Works working on that and start moving on it. And Eric can tell me if that's not the right time to make that motion.
That is the job of the SUSCOM. So if you want staff to go, it would go to Public Works. So the recommendation will go up to Public Works. We'll discuss it there.
All right, I would second that recommendation, that motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, thank you for the motion, and the motion passes. Before we let them go, any other questions or discussion for Sarah and Marco? Yes, thank you very much for attending. I hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 3B. Do you have you want to introduce Brandon?
No, same with Matt Farwig. So he's with Ameren, the MoBiz Savers program. So just another opportunity to raise awareness of this. And again, looking for this committee to kind of digest this and understand it and make recommendations.
Yeah, well, good evening, everybody. I'm Matt Farwig with the Ameren Biz Savers Program. You might be wondering where I differ from what Marco and Sarah do. So what our program is, it's basically, we provide incentives for making energy efficient upgrades to commercial and industrial Ameren customers. Now, I know, being a municipality, you guys don't fall under that, but basically anything that's non-residential falls under our program. We're basically a contractor for Ameren. I work for a company called TRC, and we're contracted by Ameren, regulated by the state, and we run this program basically on a 3-year cycle. And what it does is it'll pay cash incentives to any non-residential entity for upgrades. The most common are lighting, HVAC, some more, some other ones that might apply to the city. I know the ice rink is a big consumer of electricity. We have incentives for that. Different drive motors can receive higher efficient equipment. We'll pay incentives for those kind of things. And I want to reach out to Alderman Wegg, or the Board of Aldermen, because basically we get a list of energy consumption by meter or by entity from Ameren, and then we look to see if that entity is participating in this program. And it kind of jumped out at me that the city of Brentwood, knowing you guys had this committee, a big drive to be sustainable and renewable, hadn't participated in the program. So that's why I wanted to reach out. And just for reference, the city uses, I think it was about 4.2 million kilowatt hours of energy annually. And to give that some perspective, a average U.S. residential home uses about 10,000 kilowatt hours. So the city itself is a fairly large consumer of energy. Nothing to feel bad about. Again, that's the majority of that's your ice rink. They're very, very big consumers of energy. They have to run 24/7, 365. So that's probably going to be your biggest opportunity there for savings. Our most common program, or our most common incentive that we pay for, is our lighting program. So it has the quickest return on investment, meaning whatever money you spend to upgrade from fluorescent or high-intensity, inefficient lighting over to LED, however much money you spend for those upgrades, most cases you usually recoup that cost within about 2 years. And a big portion of that is the incentives that we'll pay, and then of course your reduction in your Ameren bill as well. The combination of those two things will get you the quickest return on investment. The other one that we most commonly pay incentives for is HVAC. So as the city, the old units break down, need to be replaced, what our program does is basically incentivizes you to install higher efficient HVAC equipment. So code's going to require, I believe Brentwood's on 2015 building code. They're going to require a certain level of efficiency, and you're going to have to install that, regardless. And then what we try to do is incentivize you to install something even more efficient than that. And we're basically going to help you offset some of that cost to where you're not having to bear the whole cost of going with that higher efficient equipment. And I believe Alderman Weggie has a breakdown of each of your meter locations with the consumption by each. So yeah, with the ice rink, it's not quite as cut and dry as like HVAC and lighting, but we have worked with the St. Peter's Recplex, Afton Ice Rink, and the Enterprise Center on doing upgrades to those ice rinks to lower their consumption. And the biggest way to do that is to switch from a refrigerant type ice rink to an ammonia-based ice rink. Much more energy efficient. And what we do in cases like that, you're not going to see that on this, what we call our standard list here. We basically do energy models. So we calculate, what's the minimum efficient rink that I assume you probably have now, how much energy is it consuming, and then what amount of energy will a higher efficiency ammonia-based rink consume. And then we'll pay you a certain cash value based on how many kilowatt hours you're saving. So that would be the quickest or the biggest way to reduce your consumption and get some of these incentives. And then you might be wondering, why are we doing this? Ameren sells electricity. Why are they paying people to use less of it? Here in Missouri, it's different in Illinois. It's basically set up to where Ameren's trying to reduce peak demand. So peak demand is, today's a good example. One of the hottest days of the year, everybody's HVAC is running, drawing a lot of power. Ameren basically has to have what they call peakers on standby, so power plants that are there essentially as a backup to meet that very temporary demand for, say, 4 to 5 hours on those hot days. Well, it costs Ameren a lot of money to keep those plants open, keep them maintained, keep them staffed, all those kind of things. So they're trying to reduce the amount of consumption during those peak demands. So our program really focuses on, what are things that run during the day. So I always point out, if you have exterior lighting that only runs at night, we do not pay incentives on that. So it's got to be interior lighting. If it is exterior lighting, it has to be on 24/7 because again, we're looking at that daily peak demand. And if you aren't, really sure where to start, say you want to participate in this program and earn some of these incentives, our website is a great place to go to. It's AmerinBizSavers.com. And from there, you can see the different type of contractors that we have available. So lighting, HVAC, variable frequency drive. You can see which companies we've worked with the most. And then if, say you want to go out to bid for lighting, you can put what type of work you're wanting to have done, and then that information gets sent out to contractors that are part of our, what we call Trade Ally Network, basically approved contractors for the program, and they'll get the ability to bid on that work. And something I would like to mention too is with lighting and HVAC, if you've done any upgrades since March of 2019, please let me know because we will retroactively pay incentives for those updates. So I don't know if you maybe have like a facilities manager or somebody you could check with. And it has to be what we call our standard list, which most lighting does fall under. Anything that's, basically in this brochure here. Definitely let me know because we'll go back to March 15th of 2019 and pay incentives on that. And then, going into the future, of course, any updates, you're going to be doing, if it's going to save electricity in any way, definitely let me know there, even if it doesn't fall under these standard items here. We'll typically pay incentives for anything that's reducing your electric demand. So yeah, definitely let us know about that. Yeah, that's pretty much the overall gist of the program. Any questions on it at all?
So I have one question. What does participation in the program consist of? Is there anything other than saying, yeah, we're interested, and then, or is there any kind of formal commitment?
Yeah, so basically either, the city itself or in most cases the contractors will fill out an application, and basically it lists, so say we'll use lighting for example. If this were older, fluorescent lighting, we would basically on the application just need to know what type of lighting you currently have and what type of LED or high efficient lighting you're going to install. And then basically based off of, what the incentives are calculated at, that's what we'll pay the incentives for.
Okay.
So it's fairly seamless process.
I think I understand. It's not you're not like opting into it's just basically every application for every specific rebate is the participation, correct?
Yeah, you basically as an Ameren customer, commercial or non-residential customer, you're eligible. So it's not like you don't have to sign up for it or pay a fee to be in it or anything like that. You're basically automatically, enrolled in it. And then we just process it per application.
Okay. Any other questions anyone has?
Yeah, I have one. So does your team do any sort of like an energy audit where, basically you would kind of come in and identify the opportunities, or is it on the municipality to come up with a list of things that they think they would want to improve and then basically kind of go through the contractor path?
Yeah, we personally don't perform that type of service. There are contractors out there that will. One thing that's not listed on this brochure, but it's another one of our programs, it's called retro commissioning. So that might be something good to consider for the ice rink as well. It's basically looking at a building to see where its inefficiencies are. So if the chiller's not operating properly, if you have air leaks, all those kind of detailed things, we'll actually pay incentives for the study, and then we'll also pay incentives for the upgrades that it improves upon. And yeah, if you go to our website, there's some good resources there. We'll give you, the names of some of the contractors that do that kind of work.
Thank you.
And this is available to any, you said non-residential, so do you work with businesses, school districts? Okay.
Yeah, we do a lot of work with like Parkway District. I think there's 2 new videos on our website you can check out we do with them. Our primary focus is like industrial just because they consume so much energy. But, we work with, I know we've done projects with the city of Clayton. I live in Green Park. I know we've done a project with them in the past. So yeah, basically anybody that uses energy that's commercial based.
I'll just add one more comment. So I'm in the manufacturing space, and we've used the program a lot. Not with Brentwood, but with other large scale industrial manufacturers, and the the program really does work well. It's very easy to use, and we saw the return that we thought we would. A lot of that, you always get that number up front of, you should pay it off in 2 years, and then maybe it ends up being 4 or 5. We actually, the numbers were really good, and we saw a really good benefit from it.
Excellent. Appreciate the feedback.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much.
All right, thank
Appreciate
you.
your presentation. Any discussion about recommendations?
Just a thought. I mean, we have, as a city, have spent a lot updating, and I think Eric will tell us that we have an ammonia system because I remember when the fire department had to go for the ammonia leak, actually. So I know we have that, and I think we're pretty energy efficient, but I think there's tremendous opportunity. In the June meeting, actually, I shared the energy consumption with the board. So if you go back to the June meeting and look in the committee reports, you'll see that 4.2 million kilowatt hour usage. So what's the next step? I mean, I think, Alex, to your question about how do we initiate an audit? How do we, what do we do? Are we going to, just ask Dan and Eric and Whitney and everybody to go back to their departments and look for opportunities, or do we want to bring in some expertise that knows how to look for things? I don't know. Just my thoughts.
Yeah, and kind of just so when I've done this in the past, we did have an outside third-party auditor come in, and I don't remember what the cost was, but it was incentivized by Ameren to do so. So I mean, I'd be happy to help try to guide with my experiences in the past, at least, on having that done. I think there's benefit in doing it. Obviously we can identify our own opportunities as well. But those guys they'll find some things that you don't even realize are using energy.
So one question is, I know that I didn't realize how many different buildings the city has operating. And so, if we wanted to make a recommendation to explore the option to have an audit of maybe our 10 largest buildings, or if Eric has an idea of what would be some of the locations where we may have the biggest impact by having an energy audit and making some changes. I would be happy to.
Sorry, I was checking one thing because when we went through this, in 2015, we actually participated in this program specifically for the rec center. And we received a check for $47,209.63 for all the work that we had done at the ice rink when we did the renovation. So that was HVAC, that was electric, it was the HVAC, or the refrigeration system. So we have participated in this before. I think the idea is working with Dan and his department on the rest of the municipal buildings.
Yeah, I'd like to see us move on that, but I'm wondering if we can't also look at all of our private businesses here and somehow encourage them to do what your company has done. And the only way I know we could contact them all is when they apply for their annual business license. If we could somehow tie that in, at least send them a list of contractors or suggestions, we could talk that over and see if there's some way we might be able to help them move on this too, and if they're not aware, at least make them aware.
Yeah, at least maybe something like this, just having some sort of handout I really like that idea, thinking outside just the box of the city and what the city has, direct control of. I think that's a really good idea as well.
Alderman Burkemper, 2 more things. I mean, obviously, as we redevelop our sustainability website, we can make sure that this is included, especially for commercial as well. And then also working with maybe the Brentwood Chamber of Commerce and even inviting Ameren to do a presentation during one of their meetings. It's just as another avenue to kind of hit the commercial sector.
So I would, I think personally, it's worth at least suggesting to the board to look further into the what the auditing incentives are like, and potentially identifying opportunities, a couple buildings, or however they would break it down, but just, maybe start with a few and then see how that goes, and then see what kind of, payback we kind of see from it, and then.
Yeah, and everyone can correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, we could probably do a couple different things. We could start with a motion to take to Public Works that the city investigates our own municipal buildings, and we could, that would go to Public Works. And then as the Sustainability Commission, we can work on kind of, the commercial sector and some of those other things that we've discussed and bring that back to a future meeting for discussion. So it might be a two-part recommendation.
I like it.
So if somebody makes that motion, that would be a motion.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah, I make a motion that we send this back to Public Works to explore the opportunity for doing some energy audits and have them take the next step.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great. Thank you very much. I gotta get back to my screen here. I lost my. Okay, next item on the agenda is citizen comments. Do we have any comments from? Step right up, please.
Good evening, everyone. How we doing?
Good.
Good. My name's Brandon Klaus. I live right over on Moritz. Lived in Brentwood for about 3 years. Actually, know Alderman Weggie. We go back a little bit, and we were talking, and he brought up the fact that he was on this committee, and just so happens that I own Exceptional Energy Solutions, and I talk to Mr. Farwig all the time. We are one of the Ameren trade allies that do this kind of work. So we specialize in LED lighting and solar, but we have a lot of partners. We've done HVAC jobs also. We've got a partner that does retro commissioning also. So when he told me about this, I was very excited. Obviously, in any way, shape, or form, would love to help. We've helped almost 400 customers, commercial customers, anybody from your small local barber shop to, huge 100,000 square foot warehouses. And I think the last time I checked, we've gotten those roughly 350 or 400 customers about $1.4 million in Ameren money to help with their projects, whether it be lighting or solar or HVAC, whatever we've done. So just wanted to introduce myself, tell you guys that being a resident, super excited that we're talking about this. And once again, like I said, just I've seen the list of the Ameren bills that you guys put on the website, right? And saw some stuff that we could definitely help with. So first thing is you've got a lot of accounts that are not, I guess I would, what's a good way to put it? Classified correctly. There we go. Sorry. So what that means is Ameren has different classifications from 2M, which is a small general business, okay, up to I think 11M or something like that. Whereas you are paying 3M prices on properties that should be 2M. And the biggest difference is that big peak demand charge that he was talking about. On a 3M facility, you're going to pay that. On a 2M, you're not. And I know that you guys are paying that fee on a few of those buildings when you should not be. Just for the simple fact that you're at the minimum of that peak demand charge, therefore you're not going over it, and you're probably less. So just a couple little things that I noticed. We do energy audits on a daily basis. We're the ones that are in the trenches filling out the applications, so Matt's company writes the customers the check. But we don't do retro commissioning. We're not an engineering firm. But like I said, we do have a partner that does that. So that's really about all I have to say. Wanted to thank you all for obviously putting this committee together, and showing some interest, and then love to be any help that we can. All right, thank you.
Can you tell me the name of your company one more time, please?
Exceptional Energy Solutions.
Got it.
Website is ees-mo.com.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions, guys?
Just want to clarify, so you guys do the auditing and kind of the upfront stuff. Do you also do some of the retrofitting itself?
We're full service.
Okay.
So we come in, we take a look at your building, you know, if it's, say, lighting, you guys have LED lighting, these particular fixtures, we've probably put in a few thousand of them, okay? We put together a proposal for you, say, hey, this is what Ameren is going to cover. Here is the overage that you will be responsible for. And then we give you options. You know, if you just want simple retrofitting where you're using the same fixture that's already in there, we can do that. If you want a brand new fixture like you guys have in this facility right here, we obviously do that. So we give you pricing, and then our installers are our employees. We don't sub any work out when it comes to the lighting installation.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I know you said you're local. Is the business also a local business, or where are you?
Well,
where are you out of?
I have partners in my business. We're based out of technically Imperial, Missouri.
Okay.
And Kenny's actually, this is Kenny Noel. He is the director of solar. So, but yeah, we're based out of Imperial, Missouri.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Nice to
guys.
meet you. Any other citizen comments? All right. Moving on to chairman and committee reports. I have nothing for this meeting. Any committee member reports? Yes.
I have a couple things, just mostly for awareness for SUSCOM here. So one, I'd like to introduce Whitney Kelly. So she's our new Director of Planning and Development, in case anybody hasn't met her. So she came on board a couple weeks ago, comes to us from Creve Coeur, so it's already been pretty exciting to hear some perspective coming from Creve Coeur and some things that we can do different. So just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of her. One thing we've been talking about is rethinking some of the requirements for our architectural review board. And I sat in on the ARB meeting last week, and it was very interesting that there was a lot of discussion about removing ARB approval from the solar panel, which has been one of my hot topic things. And I think there was some good discussion there. And so I just wanted to inform you that I'm planning to kind of start pushing that through on Public Works, because it seems like an unnecessary hoop that people have to jump through to go through solar panel. And as Whitney said, and I'm going to pull a thread on this, that, you know, I don't think we can say no to the solar panel anyway. So what's the point, right, of just having that additional thing? And so just for your awareness, one more thing for awareness. So the board has not fully approved this, but we are going to move out on a stormwater management plan if it is approved. We did leave Public Works with a positive recommendation on that. And basically, we're going to be hiring a company to come in and identify all the areas where we have stormwater issues, categorize them, prioritize them, and come forward with a plan of how we solve them over multiple years. But I do think that fits in with sustainability, because there might be some opportunities to maybe think outside of the normal box for stormwater management. And then last thing is budgeting. The 2022 budget process kicks off on September 2nd. So we have a citizens budget forum. That's an opportunity for citizens to come forward with what their priorities are as we're thinking about the budget for next year. And I am hoping to have SUSCOM involved in those budget discussions. Mostly, I think on a couple different levels. One is, just throwing this out there, like if we're looking to buy a new vehicle in 2022, is that an opportunity to go with an electric vehicle? Those kind of things, and kind of spot opportunities in the budget, but also think about, things we want to prioritize coming out of this committee for 2022 as well. And I will mention that we did budget in 2021 some funds for SUSCOM's use that we haven't used any of it yet. So there might be some opportunity in the rest of the year, if we want to, Brewster's Millions that stuff out. So just for awareness. Thank you.
Thank you. So a couple questions I have, I guess, on those. The the stormwater thing, is that sort of, is that focusing on city facilities or streets and like everything? Like with the
Everything.
whole okay,
It
everything
would
public.
be, and again, it's not approved yet, so, I might be getting ahead of my skis a little bit. I would expect it would be approved, but it would be basically, identifying these problems. If it's pooling water, if it's rushing water that's causing erosion in areas. We have a lot of houses that have their drain spouts going out onto the street, which creates ice and other issues. So first of all, identifying all those problems, coming up with some way of prioritizing, because right now it's, residents call and they say, my backyard's flooded, and so we don't have a good, like, comprehensive way of racking and stacking those. But I do think there is probably going to be some sustainability impact there.
Question on that. Is this something that is anywhere in the city or only city-owned land?
No, it's anywhere in the city.
And then my other question was on the solar. So was it a topic of discussion because there were additional new applicants that were applying for solar in that meeting?
It was, so we're talking about the criteria of who can be on the ARB. Right now, you have to be a licensed architect that lives in Brentwood. And I think that we've come to the realization that we're shooting into a barrel that doesn't have many fish in it, right? And so talking about how do we expand that, there was a solar applicant on the ARB last week, and, it kind of went through as a non-issue. And that as well as, can we reduce the workload on ARB for these kind of trivial things that they've never said no to anyway? It just seems like an opportunity to mitigate that problem as well as remove the barrier. And basically the only question they ever asked, according to Matt Foreman, was, is the frame shiny? And as long as it's not shiny, if it's black powder coated or bronze or something, then it's fine. So maybe we can just write that in a sentence into our code and just take that requirement out. So.
Yes. Very good. Else? So I did have one more thing I forgot to report on. So FYI, for anyone here that's interested, there's a thing called the National Solar Tour. Brandon and others are aware. I've done, like, you can basically host an open house, a solar open house, that you just kind of put a posting on, and it's. Last year it was virtual, so they asked you to do videos, but this year it's kind of both, where you just basically, set a time aside on the weekend of October 2nd and 3rd, open your house to, put up a sign, and anyone who wants to come and is interested in solar, just kind of basically come and ask an owner, like hear firsthand about someone else's experience. So just wanted to, I guess, FYI that I'll be doing that again this year, and anyone else, if you know of anyone else that's got solar and might be interested, they try to get what they call solar tours, like local tours together, to where you get kind of clusters of these open houses, and this could be commercial or residential, of course, but it would help kind of draw more people, because if they can kind of hit 3 places, in an afternoon, it just kind of draws more attention to it. So. Wanted to pass that on.
Is there a website? You said is it National Solar Tour?
Yes, National Solar Tour. It's put together by the ASES. It's like, I'll send you, I can send you the information. Yeah, feel free to contact me if you'd like to know more.
It's sort of changing gears, but so we've talked a lot about, like, the green spaces in Brentwood, kind of earlier in our beginning meetings. So obviously, a few weeks ago we had a lot of tree damage and trees come down and tree removal. That was the first time I'd ever seen that we actually have a full tree inventory, which is really, really cool. But, we lost a tree in our front yard. We basically have a big hole and a part of a stump in the front. What is does Brentwood have like a replacement procedure? How does that typically go as a homeowner that has that? What's the process for them?
So if it's a street tree that comes down, we will, obviously, we work with Davey Tree, who's our on-call resource specialist, and obviously they're a tad bit behind with the amount of storms we've had this summer. So they will be out to grind that stump more than anything else. And then if any tree comes down, we're on a 1-to-1 replacement program right now. So if it's a suitable site, and most of the time, if it's a tree lawn between the sidewalk and the street, it typically is, we'll replace that tree. If for some reason it's not a suitable site, a lot of times it's the tree lawn is too small. It's less than 3 feet, which you have to have at least 3 feet for a decent tree. We'll replace that we'll put a tree in a different suitable site. So we typically will be planting from late October through April. A lot of times it's mainly fall. There's a few spring trees we'll put in. But right now especially with the ash tree removals, we're about putting in 100 trees a year.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just didn't, I didn't know what the process was. Never lost a tree, so it is in one of the lawns, the street lawn. So
Sure.
thank you.
Okay.
Eric is the guy to contact. And I can speak from experience that you can, well, at least we had to replace one time, and I put in a request, for the type of tree. Like, as long as it's on the city's list, they've kind of got a list in the tree plan. As long as it's an approved tree type, you can request a specific type. Good question. Thanks for that. Anything else? All right. Staff report.
Yeah, we just have one quick thing, just to kind of follow up from last month. The communications manager, Janet Levy, has been working on the sustainability page, the recycling and sustainable resources page on the city's website. She did make some minor updates, some things that people talked about. But we felt, when she and I talked, we felt that it'd be good to wait until the commission approves the plan, because a lot of what's in that plan will drive the website as well, because especially the accountability factor that we're going to be putting in the plan, and the website will be a big focus of the accountability aspect of it. So we'll continue to kind of make those minor updates, but you'll see the more radical update when we approve the sustainability plan for the city.
All right. Thanks, Eric. Anything else from staff?
That's it.
All right. All right. So we got here next. Meeting minutes. Is this approving minutes from previous meetings? Any comments on the meeting minutes?
I move we approve the meeting minutes from, let's see, we've got March 29th, April 26th, and June 28th.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Next, old business, Green Dining Alliance. We just had an item in here, I guess, for further discussion about next steps.
Yeah, so 2 months ago, we had the Green Dining Alliance came and give a presentation to the Sustainability Commission, and the idea was to kind of talk last month about what the next step should be as a commission, or if there'd be recommendations to the Public Works Committee. Obviously, we pushed that off for another month since Alderman Wiggy was absent, and I know Alderman Wiggy and Alderwoman O'Neill, I blanked for a second, thank you, were really important in spearheading this, so we want to make sure they both were here for the conversation. So what we're looking for is, the commission's recommendation, if there's anything we want to take officially to Public Works Committee.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think one of the things that we had talked about before, trying to refresh my own memory, but one thing I recall is being discussed is potentially the city subsidizing those fees for anyone, businesses that would want to be a part of the Green Dining Alliance. So that would be one potential thing for recommendation. Anything else that I'm not remembering that we may have discussed potentially being in that recommendation?
One thing that I was thinking, I tried to look up today, was we talked about maybe giving businesses a break on their business license, if that was easier for the city to work on the business license end versus giving a subsidy or paying for the Green Dining Alliance. I don't know if that's another option that the city would want to explore, or which one is a larger benefit to the business as an incentive. I was unable to find how much a business license would cost for a typical restaurant. I don't know if anyone has any idea what that is, but.
I don't think anyone here does.
Whitney, do you know off the top of your head how much a business license is?
On the spot.
Way to go, Whitney. No. Give me a second.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I think that would, just my opinion, but, you know, I think if we could offset the cost of, because remember, there was a audit that had to happen, and then the initial fee. If there's a way we could offset that, or, you know, a major proportion of it by a reduction in the business license, then I think there's a compelling case. And, you know, I think there's benefits for sustainability, but honestly, that's less trash that we're gonna have to pay taking out of this city, right? So we're gonna save money on the backside of this more than anything, because all those styrofoam containers are going to the houses and then they're going in the trash and we're paying to take them away. So you know, in my mind, not just the sustainability aspect of it, but, you know, it's just gonna help our city if we did incentivize that. We're starting to see restaurants pop in now. We have the new Columbian place and maybe some others coming, especially when Brentwood Bound's done. I think if we can have this in place, that would be a really compelling thing for new businesses.
And again, so the business license is something they apply for every year, correct? They have to renew every year. So, yes, I like the idea of you know, covering that cost in some manner. I think it's up to the city to how they would want to you know, offset that. But you know, just the awareness of putting that in front of these businesses as they come to renew their license every year, just to raise the awareness is going to be helpful, I think, by itself.
So just going back through the meeting minutes, so for a restaurant to participate in GDA, it's $250 in year one, and that covers the audit, and then $200 in subsequent years. So I guess I would say, you know, let's reduce the business license by $200. If you're a member of GDA, then the business would have to pay that extra $50 up front, but they would have that on a recurring basis.
I think that sounds good.
Yes.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Thank you for that. Yes.
I'm wondering too, if in light of what we're hearing, I don't know if their fee for GDA covers the cost of an energy audit for the restaurant, but that might be something we could look into too, to subsidize some of that, at least once, if not every year, but at least the initial one might be something that would work out also.
Are you thinking all businesses or the restaurants that are doing today?
The restaurants. And we could talk to the people from GDA and see how much that is and come back and see if that would be a viable addition to their incentives.
Yeah, I don't recall. I don't. Maybe I can't recall if from their presentation whether that included sort of the energy component, or if I know waste was the big one.
Yeah, they do LED lighting as well as
Okay.
styrofoam and composting and all. So I would be happy to look into that and see if there's something else we could do
Yeah, I think
that might help
it's a
with
good
that.
idea. All right.
And I also volunteer to go eat a bunch of empanadas at the new place and then tell them about GDA, so I'm on that. Don't worry, as soon as they open.
Sounds good. Thank you, everyone. All right, next item of business is the sustainability plan. So I think we've got, the subcommittee's been working on, you know, the pieces of the plan as it's coming together. So last meeting we had presented the vision statement and asked for anyone to, you know, kind of go home and if you had any suggested changes to it, we can discuss those, but we'd like to try to approve that statement tonight. And then tonight, for the first time, you're seeing the introduction and sustainability definition sections, you know, for consideration and approval next time. So Eric, anything to add to those?
No, I mean, I think you covered it pretty well. The next month will be guiding principles, just to kind of give everyone an update. So you'll approve, hopefully, introduction and the definition next month, and then review principles the month of September to the October meeting.
So did anyone have any suggested changes to the vision statement?
I do. It's the teacher in me. The very last line, We could say the well-being of the community for current and future generations. I don't think we need the words
The sake
the
of.
sake of. If we just omit those, it shortens it a bit.
I have no problem with that. Any other suggestions? I'd entertain a motion to approve the vision statement with the changes noted.
I would
I'll
second.
move.
We got it all. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, everyone. Any new business?
I was just going to add something.
Sorry.
So we did have a conversation when we were working on their smaller group around the sustainability plan. Just something that our group could start thinking about a little bit.
Oh, yes.
I had brought up with Andy and Eric, we're going to be putting a lot of work into this sustainability plan, but also into a lot of the projects that we are going to have in the plan, and wondering if we have staff or if there will be need in the future, now or in the future, for additional staff with the city of Brentwood to execute some of this work. Just a discussion that I thought would be important for SUSCOM to have, and then potentially a recommendation now or in the future for the city to make sure that the things that we're talking about and we find very important, we can as a city execute now and moving into the future. I don't know if anyone has thoughts on that.
Thank you for, I'm sorry, I skipped past that, but thank you for bringing that up.
From my perspective, I think that is a critical recommendation to come out of this. We are asking Eric and everybody to do a lot outside of their current job, and I think if there was an opportunity to go to the Board of Aldermen and get authorization to increase staff and have somebody that is focused on executing on these, and finding other opportunities, dealing with, Ameren and all these stakeholders that we have, I just think that is going to be a critical thing to the success of this initiative. Otherwise, it's going to be, it's always going to be on the side. And so I think if we really want to lead in this area, we got to put some focus and priority on it. Not that everybody isn't doing a great job. I mean, I really, really think they are. It's just, let's take it off of them and get some help.
Yeah, and we were talking, I think even the putting together the plan itself, and we're in kind of the easy parts now, the short parts for the plan, but it's going to get, there's going to be a lot of meat to put on the bones, and that's going to be not a small lift, I think, for us and Eric together to do. So, what is our budget that is currently allocated to the commission?
We had $20,000.
Okay.
We had a line item for that, but off the top of my head, that might not be right.
Yeah, that sounds right. And double check real quick.
Yeah, we had talked about in the subcommittee meeting, the potential of, even starting with an internship, or, like with the universities, we've got plenty of resources to pull from, that could be, unpaid or certainly paid. I think this could potentially be a part-time position, as a city staff as well. And there's a lot of, we've got plenty of knowledge and expertise here, but that's just also an additional person, that could be, kind of a resource to sort of add to the conversation.
And to date, we have not, have we used any of the allocated budget? Not to date. Okay. Yeah, just one thing, I'd be happy to, I still have connections at WashU with different professors that do a lot of energy type work. I'd be happy to reach out and, reconnect with them and see if they would have, a student or someone working on a project that would, if that's how we decide, would be a good use of our time and their time, I'd be happy to reach out and try to connect us.
Maybe just
to
get their
them.
thoughts on that. Is it naive to think that we could find somebody that was part-time, if it is approved, right? Just thinking down the road, is it naive to think that there is somebody like there that we would be able to hire that would be willing to do that? Is that, is it naive to think that we could bring an intern in and get value added for a couple months over a summer, or would it be actually more of a drag on Eric and his team? Because we don't want to do that either. Is there, maybe just get their thoughts, like if, here's the desire, and how would they solve it? Is it, maybe they have some ideas about, maybe it's, and again, everything would have to be approved, of course, so just throwing stuff out, but, maybe it's a grant to one of the universities, and maybe we make this like a master's project or something. Is there a way that we could, intelligently design this to make sure we get good bang for our buck?
Yeah, I would be happy to, do some research kind of on my own and then bring it back to the next meeting with, kind of what feedback I get from them.
And just to confirm, it was $20,000 in this year's budget.
And what is our fiscal year? Is it end of the calendar year cycle?
Yeah,
Okay.
calendar year.
So that's, that's actually a pretty good chunk between now and, for the next 4 months or 3 months.
We can do it.
Yeah.
So is the next step to wait for Alex to come back next month and give us a little more direction, or is it appropriate now to make a motion to explore the option of employment?
Yeah.
What is the best way for us to support this idea going forward? Does anyone know?
I think it would depend on if it's what the end goal is. If it's a part-time staff person for a few years till everything gets going, if the committee's recommending a full-time staff person, which now's the budget time, so now would be the best time probably for either one of them, for that kind of conversation. When we talk about the $20,000 this year, we also have talked about energy audits as well. So that's just to kind of keep in the back of your mind that we have funding there to do that if that's what the SUSCOM wants to do. I think it's really kind of in the ball's kind of in your guys' court. It's hard for staff to say we should add staff.
Andy, Eric, would it be possible for you to talk with others and prioritize what you think an additional person could do? If Alex comes back with some ideas that we may not have thought of, but you have some things that you could delegate to someone else that would help us have a focus on what we want that person to do.
Sure. We can have that conversation in the management team meetings. We're happy to do that. I think one of the things we talked about at the subcommittee meeting is whether or not the ultimate goal is to have a sustainability department. Again, that is something that is a overall broad vision maybe of something you want to do, but if you get to kind of a department, that then pulls away, is that something that staff can do, or do we need someone to kind of be in charge of that? So I think there's a lot of discussion that probably still needs to be had, and now's a good time to be doing it, especially during the budget process.
Yeah, I think maybe the next step could be like defining the role, almost like bulleting out what exactly it would be and how many hours or how much time it would allocate, because there might even be somebody, could be an idea if there's someone on the staff to expand their role if they're part-time and maybe they want to dive into it more, or if it was a student, they would at least understand exactly what they're doing so that we could fill it, basically.
Yeah, and it seems like, honestly, at this point, with the time it would take to hire someone, that 20,000, not much of it, we wouldn't have much time to put that towards, we'd be close to the end of the year by the time you'd end up hiring someone. But I do think the budgetary, the planning, budget planning timing is probably pretty appropriate.
But we could make a recommendation from SUSCOM to, again, the budget will be approved and everything, but we can make a recommendation, just say for, one full-time head to be added into the budget while you're working out what that role actually looks like, and you have a placeholder. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean that it makes it into the budget, but that might be one priority that comes out of this for the budget. Then the details can be worked, and if we can't find somebody, then, we can allocate that budget later, but, that might be something we would consider maybe doing. Even though we don't know exactly what the scope is, even though we don't know exactly, but at least get something in there.
Well, and we might start realistically saying half-time person rather than full-time and have that grow with the job as it expands too.
So
And obviously, some of this will be dependent on what the plan ultimately includes as well, and how broad and how much the city wants to be a leader in sustainability within the region.
what is the, I guess, what's the timeline for the budgeting process? You know, what's the drop deadline that this sort of recommendation would have to be put through?
First, we have like 1 million meetings, and then we change everything last minute, and we pass it like December 31st. every
Okay,
year, so.
all right.
The first step is, as Alderman Weggie said, is the budget forum, which is this Thursday during the Ways and Means Committee. And that kind of kicks off the budgeting process for the city.
Okay.
I'm sure we'll be talking about it in management team meetings soon too, because we haven't gotten our finalized dates of when everything's due, but I know the new finance director has been asking me for revenue projections and things like that. So she's already working on things, but it kind of kicks off, the budget season kicks off with this meeting on Thursday.
So I mean, to me, it sounds like we could, you know, use some more time to try to define it a little bit better. But I guess I welcome input from the staff, whether that's, you know, whether there's an advantage to having a recommendation this meeting versus, you know, trying to, again, take the time between now and the next meeting to sort of try to define this a little bit better as to what we might want to ask for. Or recommend, sorry.
I think if we want to get into the budget, we have to have a number and rationale done by the end of our next meeting, because the budget's wrapped up by mid or end of October. So it's not like we have all those months to decide. We
Okay.
have to get in while the budget's being finalized.
So if we were to make a motion to, you know, add one person, you know, there's a cost obviously associated to that. You know, we made that motion, we could still iron out the details, you know, of exactly what that person will do. But, you know, I think we kind of identified, you know, we're going to need a person, I think, to really tackle a lot of this stuff once we get into it. Can you make a motion basically to add a person and get that in the budget, at least the budget conversations, as we work out the details in the background?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I think we could make that a priority, and maybe, you know, next meeting, maybe next SUSCOM meeting, we have a discussion about what the actual recommendation is, so, you know, the board knows that there's something coming, and next meeting, maybe based on what you find out, or we can all kind of think about it for the next month, and, you know, here's the basic construct of what we're thinking. And then we can go forward with a little more formal number and see if we can get that in there.
Sounds good to me too. Can we turn that into a formal motion, or is it a formal motion?
I think Alex made a motion.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll make a motion to, you know, add one person, a staff person, into the budget conversation.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm not. I think the motion's premature. Can we table it till next month? I think just saying we want to add a person without having a fairly defined job description of what that person's going to be is not going to be well received. I think we need to have a little more substance for it.
If I might make a suggestion, the motion tonight could be to have staff to bring forward a recommendation on staffing, including job description, salary, all that stuff, to the next SUSCOM meeting for further discussion.
That sounds like a wise way to go if that would work.
But we can still, at the initial budget, you know, citizens, this is a priority coming out of SUSCOM, right? That something is there, even though we don't have the actual number yet.
Excellent. Are you comfortable with the motion as it stands?
I mean, technically, I think in Robert's Rules of Order, and I'm not an expert at this, so I think you have to take away the first motion,
In the motion.
you know, and then do a second one, have staff move forward with putting together a staffing, I hate to call it a recommendation, staffing information to present to the Sustainability Commission next meeting.
I will rescind the first motion.
One that passed. But I'm not sure we know it's a full-time person yet, right? We don't,
Right.
I mean, I feel, the way I interpret that motion is, you know, send that is a priority coming out of SUSCOM, that we believe that there needs to be some funding necessary for a person to focus on this, and that we're working through that construct. Because it could be, our recommendation is we give a grant to UMSL or something and have a master's program. It could be hire a full-time person. It could be, you know, there are companies out there that this is their specialty and we want to get a time and material, you know, there's all these different constructs. We don't know what that is yet, and we might not know it even after next month, but we just want a little slug of money and we're still working through the details.
Yeah.
So if we leave it as it is, that does that.
Yeah, and I mean, the motion did pass.
It did pass, right, okay.
Do I need to make another motion? on it?
Unrescind, yeah.
But I think we're all on the same page, trust me.
Yes.
And I'll work on that for the next meeting.
Okay,
Excellent.
thank you.
And I'll just add one comment not related to the motion. You know, Eric, you were talking about a sustainability department. You know, just, I know it's very early conversations about it, but just the fact that that is coming up in conversations, I think, is showing that, you know, this commission is needed and is making a difference. I mean, you know, I think that's kind of the culmination of what we're trying to do is to help, you know, drive the city, you know, towards a sustainable direction. I think that you even just mentioning that you're having conversations is exciting.
All right, thank you everyone for the discussion and the motion. Any other citizen comments? Or, I'm sorry, any other new business before we move on to citizen comments? All right, citizen comments, no? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
No one ever opposes that motion.
Yeah. I don't know if you can find.
But it is good to ask.
Someone who was mechanical or electrical or